Our Liverpool title contenders. Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, today's question is going to be surrounding Liverpool Football Club and whether or not they can mount a serious title challenge for the rest of the campaign. Of course, we're only 8 games into it, but it already seems pretty open for the top of the table right now. We're going into the second international break of the season with Tottenham leading the Premier League title race. That should tell you pretty much all you need to know. But whilst Tottenham and are playing very good football and everybody's seemingly falling in love with Ange Postecoglou, whilst Arsenal have overcome a huge mental block in beating Manchester City last weekend, of course, and obviously there are still going to be question marks over Arsenal, but they are looking strong to start the season off, and they are looking to reinforce their squad in January to give them a bigger boost for maybe a title charge in the second half of the season. And whilst Manchester City, well, they sort of do their usual stutter at the beginning of the season before really turning it up and turning up the gears a few notches in around about February time for the second half of the campaign. Liverpool, for me, are somewhat going under the radar. And I'm not just saying that because they're my team and I've got a sort of biased view and opinion on them. I genuinely think they are slightly going under the radar and no one's really appreciating the sort of job that Jurgen Klopp is doing right now. Especially because, obviously, at the beginning of the campaign, there were a lot of question marks being thrown around about Liverpool. There were a lot of question marks being thrown around about whether or not Klopp can actually rebuild a team, what's to be made of the midfield, is the defence struggling as well, what about the attack, will certain players leave because of how bad last year was and how not getting into the Champions League would affect maybe Liverpool. There were so many questions in the aftermath of obviously last season going into this brand new campaign, but I think Liverpool have done a very good job and it surprised a lot of people. It certainly surprised me, and I'm a Liverpool fan, so we'll get onto that more and more as this video goes on. But I did want to talk about the possibility of there being a title race. Not that I personally feel like Liverpool are in one, but of course there has been questions thrown around about it, and I just want to address them and give my 2 cents on maybe the possibility of course, Liverpool challenging City or Arsenal, or maybe even Spurs, or someone else maybe, for that Premier League title come the end of the campaign. Before I go any further though, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always very greatly appreciated. Of course, get involved in the comment section as well. I encourage you to tell me all your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it about this particular question. So do get involved down there, because I'm sure all of them will make for great and interesting reading, I'm sure. But right now, without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Liverpool's chances in maybe a title race going forward. Look, first and foremost, let me say right off the bat, I'm not entirely convinced by a title race. Not this season anyway. I think Jurgen Klopp's done a brilliant job. I think rebuilding that midfield has been a somewhat underrated move by him. I don't think he's quite got the recognition, the spotlight that he deserves. I think, like I said before, it's gone a little bit under the radar. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Going under the radar and just going about your business the way that it has done is sort of can be a good move. It shifts some of the weight of expectation off of you. It can shift some of the you know, like I say, expectation overall away from what you're doing. A lot of people, like I said at the top of the video, are focusing on how well Tottenham have done, because no one was expecting Tottenham to do as well, and everybody is seemingly taking a liking to Ange Postecoglou, myself included, admittedly. Everybody's focused on, of course, Manchester City and how they will go from strength to strength from obviously winning the treble last season, if that will be the case. Everyone's talking about Arsenal. Obviously, there were question marks about Arsenal last year in terms of the way that they lost the Premier League title from the position that they were in. But we're spending a lot of money in the summer. A lot of questions about them as well. Everyone's talking about Luton, their first time back in the Premier League for a number of years. Everyone's talking about Manchester United and their hit-and-miss start to the campaign with Erik ten Hag. Everyone's talking about Chelsea and the amount of money that they've spent and the hit-and-miss start it's been for Mauricio Pochettino being the new Chelsea manager. But like I say, I think Liverpool have gone slightly under the radar, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. I just think that Klopp deserves a bit of recognition and a bit of the spotlight and praise for the way that he's obviously rebuilt the midfield, particularly, and how well he's got Liverpool playing at the early stages of this season. Because it's not been perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There are still issues there. There are still kinks to be ironed out and things. But it's a lot better than what it was last campaign. And especially with how last campaign obviously panned out for us, we're looking for a better campaign this time around. And we've obviously got a very good start to go on from that. And it's even defied my expectations, because I went into this season and I thought that we were underprepared. I thought with the way that our transfer business had been, I thought with the way that obviously we tried to resurrect the midfield and then did a complete 180 by getting rid of Fabinho and Henderson all in one go. I wasn't entirely convinced. I wasn't entirely convinced with the way that we'd obviously set up for this season. But I've been proven wrong. And obviously it was a horrible kind of end to the transfer window with obviously how things panned out. Seemingly panic buys, in my opinion, of the likes of Endo. Not so much Ryan Gravenberch, because obviously we had been linked with Gravenberch a lot, but Endo sort of came out of the blue. Obviously getting bantered by rival fans for losing out on top targets, the likes of Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia, obviously. We don't need to obviously talk about that in great detail because it's been well documented already. But I've got to say, so far, so good. Like, we've had a solid start to the campaign. We were unbeaten until obviously a couple of weeks ago, where a big, horrible VAR error kind of cost us. And yeah, I'm still not kind of over it because of how stupid it was, but we could have been further along had obviously some certain VAR calls and refereeing decisions had gone in our favour, which they probably should have done, given hindsight. But like I say, we've got to move on. We've got to move on. Like, there's nothing. We've done our piece on that, and like I say, it's annoying because we could be further along a little bit more so. I still reckon we would have definitely got something out of that Tottenham game had obviously the goal been allowed for Luis Diaz. I still don't understand how last week against Brighton, the decision not to send off the Brighton player, Pascal Gross, I believe it wasn't given for obviously a clear goal scoring opportunity for Dominic Szoboszlai. Madness to me. Yes, it's not all down to VAR and referees. We do have to take some responsibility ourselves and say that obviously, particularly in the Brighton game, that there was defensive issues that we need to iron out, and we need to obviously look at and identify the weaknesses thereof. So it's not entirely VAR and referees' fault, but I still think that had certain decisions maybe gone our way a little bit, we could have been further along. But that isn't to undermine and underestimate how good of a start it has been for the Reds going forward. And obviously, like I say, putting to bed some of those questions being asked about whether Klopp can rebuild a side. How will the midfield fare? Because I don't think we'd rebuild the midfield completely. I don't think we'd completely destroy it in the summer the way we had done and rebuild it. I thought we'd gradually out with the old and in with the new, but obviously things escalated completely in the summer to the point where we're getting rid of everybody and everyone, with the exception of, apart from our young players, of course, the likes of Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones, Thiago Alcantara, of course, and bringing in Szoboszlai, we're bringing in McAllister, we're bringing in Endo, and obviously Ryan Gravenberch as well. So it was a complete change around, which I think has worked out well. The intensity's back, the work rate is back in that midfield. It's looking good. It's not completely balanced, and the main reason why it's not looking completely balanced, of course, is because we don't really have a proper defensive midfielder. We don't really have that proper number 6 that can sit there. McAllister's been playing there. We, of course, have Endo, but for whatever reason, and we'll get onto it a little bit later, Endo isn't preferred right now. Whether it's a bedding in process that Klopp likes to take with certain players, or whether it's just that Endo was brought in just to add experience on and off the pitch, and as a squad player, I'm not 100% sure because obviously, like I said before, the Endo deal kind of came out of the blue, but I would have at least expected him to start a few more games for us than what we had done. And, you know, maybe looking at it, maybe he should have played Endo from the start against Brighton, but that's really 50-50 on that one. The fact of the matter is that Liverpool without a number 6 lacks balance in that midfield. It doesn't look as solid. Like, McAllister has had a okay start to his Liverpool career, but I think with the role that we're asking him to play, obviously it doesn't necessarily suit him down to the ground. Like, he can get away with it, he can play there, of course he can, but as a long-term solution, him in that position isn't exactly going to work out for the best. And, you know, he's kind of got exposed a little bit in the past couple of games. But in saying that, it does seem to signal and symbolise where Liverpool are going for the future. Now, of course, there's been a lot of talk about this Andre character from Fluminense in Brazil, and that Liverpool are seemingly edging ever closer to maybe striking a deal that will see the Brazilian midfielder come over to Liverpool on a permanent move in January. Looks a really decent player. I'm not going to claim I watched the Brazilian league religiously, so this is only going off what I've researched and what and the little bits that I've seen. And heard and read and stuff. But if he works out how I'm imagining he will work out, it looks like it will be a good fit for Liverpool, and it looks like it might bring some balance to that midfield that going forward could aid Liverpool to maybe some success later down the line, maybe even as close as the end of this season. Now, when I look at this Liverpool team, and like I said at the top of the video, I'm still not convinced the title challenge is going to be in Liverpool's immediate future. But we can still achieve success in cup competitions. The Carabao Cup, for example, City are out now. It's anybody's for the taking, in my opinion. Why not go strong in that competition, and why not take that competition like we did a couple of years ago? Why not add more silverware to the Jurgen Klopp collection? Why not help this relatively new team, this relatively rebirthed team, instill some confidence and instill some sort of winning mentality by adding a trophy to their collections? Why not? A Carabao Cup could be a good way to start. The Europa League. The Europa League should be a walk in the park for Liverpool right now. Looking at, obviously, on paper, Liverpool should have no issue whatsoever with walking not only to the group stage, but maybe even going on and being obviously one of the heavy favourites to go on and lift a trophy come the end of the season. Obviously, if Real Madrid or Sevilla were to magically drop down to the Europa League, that could obviously change a little bit, because we seem to struggle against Real Madrid no matter how well or how bad we play. And Sevilla are Europa League... I've got Europa League heritage, so there is obviously those factors to consider. But Liverpool should be heavy favourites for that competition regardless, and probably should go on and lift the trophy at the end of this season. Why not add a Europa League to their collection? And the FA Cup, well, again, similar to the Carabao Cup, it could be anybody's for the taking, especially if the draw is very kind to you, especially if certain results go your way. Why not go for it? Why not go for it in terms of any of those aspects or any of those trophies? In regards to the Premier League, like I say, I still think we are a bit away from a title challenge. But it could change. Of course it could. No one's expecting Tottenham to continue the way that they are going right now. And I personally don't see them continuing past maybe Christmas time, maybe going into January, February, that they'll continue. I just don't think they have the squad depth to mount a title challenge. They're just enjoying the ride right now, as they should. Arsenal, if they add Ivan Toney in January, add some more firepower up front, definitely will be in with a shout at the title come the end of the season. And City... well, there are some question marks over their midfield and maybe their injuries, but again, you would expect Guardiola to get everything right and in order and checked completely by the time, obviously, the crunch time happens and we go into that end of January, February period where things start to really heat up. For Liverpool, if they get to the winter transfer window, if they get to the new year within touching distance of the top of the table, then my opinion might change. Because I believe in January, if we are to get Andre, and I know it might be tough because he is being looked at by a few other clubs as well, Manchester United in particular as well. Obviously, looking at it right now, Liverpool may be the more attractive prospect, but you never know what Andre might like. I know Liverpool are in pole position to sign him, but there's no guarantee we will sign him. But let's say we do, and then we may look at maybe a left-sided centre-back. Are you telling me that that team can't then go on to maybe challenge for the rest of the season? Because I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, we're missing a couple of key players in key positions. And obviously, you know, if injuries pile up again, particularly around about that period where football is kind of frantic and fast-paced and it's coming at you like every other few days, I'm just looking at it and saying, why not? We get the two players in those positions, those specific ones. Like, if we go out and get more as well somehow in January, and then great. If they fit in well, like a right back maybe, for example, possible. Then I would say that Liverpool would increase their chances. I would say they further reinforce their chances of silverware. I would say they increase their chances of a title race and a title contendership. Like I say, when you look at the way that Liverpool is set up this season and the way that we're looking at evolving and changing, you can see the intensity's back. You can see the work rate is back. You can see the industrial side of Liverpool is back. That was so missing last season. That intensity, that pressing, that everything about that Liverpool's squad was missing last season. Yes, there are still things to iron out this campaign. We can't keep conceding first. That is the annoying thing. I know that we've conceded first so many times this season, but always come back to go on and win the game or at least get a point or whatever. But we can't keep conceding. As mad as it is, we just can't keep conceding first, or we've got to start at least accumulating more clean sheets. There are things that need to be ironed out, and I do believe I don't believe it's just as simple as maybe getting a number 6, a proper number 6. I still think there are other kind of mini issues that we've got, but there's nothing wrong with our attack. It's dangerous and it's phenomenal when, of course, it's on the counter-attack and it's frightening. There is nothing wrong with our world-class goalkeeper, the best in the world, Alisson Becker. The best in the world, Alisson freaking Becker. But it's just a balance in midfield that isn't quite there yet. Mainly because Szoboszlai's brilliant, McAllister's good. We haven't seen the best of McAllister, but I feel like if we can get a proper number 6 to take that role, we can move him further forward. And Andre isn't even like a proper number 6. Andre is better on the ball than what Fabinho was. And I feel like that's why McAllister is playing that number 6, by the way. Because I feel like McAllister is better on the ball. He's not exactly a destroyer like what Fabinho was, but he's better on the ball and he can sort of play that role to an extent. I believe Andre coming in is more of a physical presence, more of a defensive-minded player than what McAllister is. But I feel like McAllister's technical ability is somewhat similar maybe to Andre. Just from the little bits that I've seen. Again, I haven't seen him a lot. But that's probably the reason why we're playing McAllister there instead of Endo, who is more of a destroyer, more of a anchorman, shall we say. And that's why we're playing McAllister, because we're trying to get the squad used to playing with that type of player in that role. And that's why I genuinely believe that the Andre transfer story will continue to snowball and gather more momentum as we get closer and closer to January. So that's my personal opinion as to why that is. It's just like I say, that area and the defence I still don't necessarily have full confidence in. And that's personally why I don't necessarily see us challenging for the league. But like I say, if we can get to January within touching distance of the top of the table, add 2 or 3 of those players in those specific positions that I mentioned, Liverpool will be in with a big shout. They'll be in with a bigger shout than what I thought. And I will hold my hands up and say I was wrong about this season. I was wrong. And I want to be proved wrong. This is the thing. I want to be proved wrong because I want the best for Liverpool Football Club. And I want us to be in this title race. I want us to be challenging on all fronts like we were a few years ago. I pray it happens, but I'm not going to get overly excited. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself just yet. So that's my thoughts, my comments, my opinions, my predictions, everything else in between in regards to whether or not I believe Liverpool are title contenders. And what are your thoughts? What are your opinions, thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it? That make for great and interesting reading down below in the comment section. So do leave them down there in regards to the question of whether or not Liverpool are title contenders. Would love to hear from you all. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things always have very greatly appreciated. And of course, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. And I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video, live stream, or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Take care. See you soon.